Hello and welcome to the Dash News podcast. I'm Mark Mason and this is episode 100. So it's a really special occasion and I'm joined by my two fellow hosts, Joel Valenzuela. How's it going?
I'm feeling pretty dashy today, as it turns out.
Yeah, man, it's a very special occasion. And our next guest host is Brian, aka Mastermind. How's it going, Brian?
Excellent.
It's Good Friday. You feeling good today?
Yes, sir.
Excellent. So, as it is episode 100, we wanted to get a Dash-tastic guest for the podcast. And I'm so happy because this is actually the first time I'm actually speaking to this guest. So we have Ivan Shumkov. I hope I got that pronounced that okay. Who is a Dash Drive developer for the Dash Core team. Welcome to the podcast, Ivan.
Hey, thanks.
Excellent. Wow, it's really great to talk to you. And I know the community is going to be really excited to learn more about Dash Drive because we've seen brief presentations of Dash Evolution, but a lot of people still have a lot of questions about what is Dash Drive. And recently on our YouTube channel within itself, we've had lots of new subscribers. So there may be a lot of people that are unfamiliar with Dash Evolution and the things that come with it, the DAPs, the DAPI, the Dash Drive. So let's first just get to your history in Dash, because I believe you joined the core team in January 2018. Is that correct?
Yeah, correct.
And that was specifically to work on the Dash Drive.
Yeah, so I was living in Vietnam and working in Vietnam for some point in my life, and developer community there is pretty small. So some people from this community joined Dash later and invited me to the Drive team.
Excellent. And I see you've been in software development for a long time as well. I checked out your LinkedIn account. Well, you got like 14, 16 years in like senior software development.
Yeah. Actually, it was my first experience in crypto development, real experience. And previously, I mostly worked on high-load services, distributed services, and databases. And actually, this experience was really helpful in my new tasks with Drive, because you can consider Drive as document-oriented database with pretty interesting replication model.
Yeah,
chain.
Absolutely. So before we get into Dash Drive, I think it's better that we give a brief summary of what Dash Evolution is first, for them to be able to understand why there is Dash Drive. So to you, what is Dash Evolution? Can you summarize that briefly for us?
Evolution, actually, it's not clear for many people. And for me personally, I see evolution is kind of development. It's development era. It's several releases, what we are going to do. It contains several products like Dash Pay, Dash Platform, and so on. And Drive is a part of Dash Platform, one of the components.
Yes, it's a difficult question, isn't it, to answer everything that evolution is, because there's so many components. I guess for our new subscribers that have joined recently, the definition on the Dash docs for evolution is Dash Evolution is the code name for a decentralized currency platform built on the Dash blockchain technology. The goal is to provide simple access to the unique features and benefits of Dash to assist in the creation of decentralized technology. Dash introduces a tiered network design, which allows users to do various jobs for the network, along with decentralized API access and a decentralized file system, where Ivan comes in. So yes, there are many components: Dash Drive, DAPI, DAPs, like the first decentralized wallet, the first DAP being created by the Dash Core team, which is the Dash Pay wallet. Exciting times. But it also consists of second tier, what we know as the Masternode network, which is kind of interesting, Brian, because when we think of Dash and speak about Dash in the past, we always refer to Dash as a two-tier network, i.e. the second layer being the Masternode network. But Dash Evolution within itself is now 3 layers, where you have layer 1, which is the blockchain protocol level, layer 2, which traditionally was the Masternode network, but now includes the DAP, Dash Drive, and now layer 3, which is the end user applications. So it must have been pretty difficult for you, Ivan, coming into this, because there's so many different moving components. So how difficult is this? Because the technology that Dash Drive is using is IPFS, correct? So
yeah, one of them.
So how did you decide why did you decide on using IPFS? Is that the only solution that was a suitable candidate, or had that decision already been made for you? Did you explore other projects? Is this the best solution out there?
Actually, it's this architecture not so complicated as is defined in document what you read. I heard it first time, actually.
Oh, excellent. Well, every day's a school day, right?
It sounds pretty complicated, but in real world, it isn't. So IPFS, actually, it's this decision was made before I joined, and I totally support this decision, and I think IPFS is a great tool, and Protocol Labs guys who invented it doing a great job of moving us to Web3. So right now they still mark this IPFS as like experimental and so on, but I never faced any issues, and it works pretty fast and fits for all our needs. So I believe in IPFS. And
okay, I have a question on behalf of the Masternode network, because we're still awaiting further details on Dash Drive in terms of its technical specifications, what's required. In terms of definitions, what we've been presented with so far is that Dash Drive is a decentralized shared file system for user data that lives on the second tier network, i.e. Masternodes. So do you know if Masternodes are going to have to increase their storage capacity to be able to facilitate Dash Drive and IPFS, because it's got to be shared everywhere, right? So is that going to be a new requirement? Do you know?
Yeah, of course. And I would say it's not like file storage; it's database. And yeah, we are storing file internally, but storing files in a drive is not like our use case. We should store like data for decentralized applications. And about requirements, yeah, I think so. Now we are trying to collect some information about masternodes or hardware and hostings, what hardware they use, what the current capacity. So I believe that masternode owners will incentivize to increase this capacity if they need.
Yeah. So what exactly is Dash Drive supposed to store? Like right now, because Dash is a little bit more of a linear type network, it's just everything's kind of on the blockchain, right? You just sort of, there they go, all the transactions in the block, and then there you go. But like now we have extra functionality. Like what are some kind of bits of data that you need a Dash Drive for? Like what's going in there? What are a couple examples you could think of?
Okay. So I think we should consider it from decentralized application needs perspective. So you need to write up some application and store some data on chain. It's really good case for trustless system like logistic. I don't know. I mean, there are many cases where you need to store data in chain. So if we are talking about Bitcoin, for example, where you can use only opcode field in transactions, it's not really useful. So that's why Evan, some years ago, came up with this idea of building layer 2 system. We're talking about evolution, right? And store data off chain. So Drive is a storage for this off chain data. We store some data fingerprint on chain, and data itself is stored in a Drive. If we are talking about what is the unit of storing in Drive, it's a special transaction, special type of transaction. We call it state transition, where you define the changes from one version of state to another one. So you can store documents like in document-oriented databases, like piece of data, like JSON object, and Drive stores all changes of this data in IPFS, and actual data, like compile this data in MongoDB.
So you basically, from what I understood from what Ryan had said in the past, you'll be able to like go into a web portal and check out, and it'll already have like your name, your address, and information like that. Is that right for Dash Drive?
Yeah, that's right. So you need to define data contract for your application, where you define the structure of documents, of JSON documents, what you are going to store. For example, profile, or I don't know, like whatever. In case of we have like example or memo dash, we call it, it's like memo cache, but memo dash. And there we store memos and like text, replies, and everything. So you define structure of your documents, publish your contract to the Drive, and then you can store these documents in just JSON documents.
The IPFS, are there any other projects that use that? Do you know? Are we like one of the first,
or actually a lot of them?
Okay.
It's quite an old technology, isn't it? Well, I say old technology. It's been around for a while, the technology itself. But
I would say current instead of old.
Yeah. But it's an interesting question. But as this is a technology, I have the definition of IPFS for those that don't know, because it is a technology and it can be utilized elsewhere, and it may help people understand why it's being used. So this is from Wikipedia. IPFS, Interplanetary File System, is a protocol and network designed to create a content addressable peer-to-peer method of storing and sharing hypermedia in a distributed file system. IPFS is a peer-to-peer distributed file system that seeks to connect all computing devices within the same system of files. So now that we've established that, I think that brings us to some more questions, because I'm already familiar with IPFS and I know some other blockchain projects that are using it. So I might as well ask you about that now and get that out the way. So I have a bit of experience with being a Cisco network engineer, and I remember IPFS. I'm hoping things have progressed, but I remember the technology when I first came across it, people had some complaints saying it was quite slow. But really, as it's a shared file system, a lot of it is dependent on the amount of nodes, right, connecting that, right? So that's a fundamental feature. So any project using it, there's variables in this, and the biggest blockchain utilizing IPFS as a platform that's been used, that I think most people watching this and listening will be familiar with, is actually the Steam blockchain. They have a service called DTube, which is a video content sharing platform similar to YouTube, where you upload content, and that utilizes
Dash Force podcasts. They're on there too.
Yeah, and so that utilizes IPF, so people can upload videos to that. Now that's had some problems and some criticisms because that's been slow to upload. So now we've had that backstory and people can understand what it is. Have you looked at like solutions like DTube and other blockchain projects that are using IPFS? Have you researched, explored, and learned some things, or some things to do, not to do?
Actually, not like DG probably, but I saw several projects which is trying to achieve the same goals as we are, and they using like they're building platforms on top of blockchain and using IPFS as off-chain storage. So this is pretty common case. I saw several projects for Ethereum, for example, for storing Ethereum profiles. As I remember, Uport guys is using it. Uport is identity on chain. Actually, it's pretty interesting topic we can discuss. And what we are working now in Dash. Probably you're familiar with ZIP5 blockchain users. Yeah, so we reconsider it a bit, this solution, because we need such identity for application.
But
Are we
actually,
doing something? Yeah, are we doing something different than others are doing with it, or I thought there was like a big deal around that we've got it or something.
So I can give you a heads up on this, and hopefully you can explain it a bit better. Because there's a lot of projects right now that are doing DAPs and all that sort of things, but Dash is a bit different. And shout out to Joshua from the Dash Core team, because he did a evolution demo last year. I really hope he is watching this and come in the live chat, because he might be able to help some things. Now, some people are saying, like, what's different from like Dash to Ethereum? And we keep talking about DAPs. If you don't know what DAP is, it's a decentralized application which evolution will enable developers to create. So the reason why I shout out Joshua is because he gave this definition in the past in this presentation, that Dash DAPs are essentially data contracts executed by third-party applications, and then they do not compute contracts executed on full nodes, as in Ethereum and Stratis. So Dash DAPs are separate to and different approaches than what other blockchain projects have. Is there anything I'm missing in that, Ivan, or that you would like to add to? Because the Dash solution in the DAP and how it's utilizing the Dash drive is different to how other projects are doing this. And I believe there are advantages as well in doing it in Dash's approach as well.
Yeah, I think like the most common solution now is like smart contracts, right? And we are providing another point of view on that. As Joshua said correctly, yeah, we have data contracts where you define your consensus rules, like you define structures, what you're gonna store on chain, and we are. It's actually, you can consider as it's like smart contract, but you have like settings which you can control, but you cannot write like custom code. But we have some new ideas. We call this feature data triggers, which allows us to achieve the same things such as smart contracts. So you can write custom logic for consensus level.
Cool. So a Dash DAP is two parts. First part, it's an API contract governing how users can interact via the Dash blockchain. And the second part is that it's a client wrapper that can be embedded into any website, desktop, or mobile application. Now, the question is the thing that's going to make Dash Evolution a success is by having third-party developers coming in and utilizing this technology. So are there any like resources and documentations? We know like the Evo GitHub repositories are starting to be open up, right? So to people, but in terms of developers, how are you going to educate them? How are you going to get this information out so they can learn about the Dash Drive IPF solution? Because they're going to have to learn all this information and guidelines about how to create a Dash DAP. is that already in play? Do you have any thoughts about this? How are you going to go about this to make it a success?
We are looking for early adopters, yeah, for sure, and we are preparing several posts on the blog about Dash platform, what it is, about components like DAP drive and so on, and few posts will be about how to spin up own testing network, like we call it DevNets. We have open sourced deployment tool which you can use right now and deploy your own DevNet on AWS and test platform. Yeah, and also we are going to provide some tool for local development.
Okay, well, let's talk about some exciting stuff, right? Let's make this fun and exciting. I'm really pleased that Brian mentioned Ryan and the contact list, because that's a huge part of evolution, the usernames and things that come with it. And I know Joel has some interesting thoughts on how the contact list should work, function, look, usernames, etc., etc. So can you explain to us, how is the Dash drive used in storing user details and I guess maintaining the contact list with usernames? I mean, like, I'm presuming I can upload a picture of my face for my profile. Is there anything else in like the contact details that the Dash drive does?
Yep. So Dash Pay is like usual data contract, where define several objects like profile, contact, and like the contact, offline contact, we call it. So it's like contact object, not this blockchain user, but just like any user. And so and profile object document contains some data as avatar, URL, display name, and so on. So it's pretty simple, not a lot of data. And recently we introduced new functionality for data contracts. We call it unique indices. So you can define some field in your document and say that this field should be unique for all documents. For example, it might be name, username. Username should be unique. So yeah, and there are some unique indices just to ensure that profile object document will be just one for one user, and contact will be just one for one for another user. So, applications.
I have a really simple, straightforward question, which I hope has a really simple, straightforward answer. Because traditionally, when we think of blockchain, if you're putting things in the blockchain, traditionally transactions, right? It's immutable. It's stored in that blockchain. You cannot change it. It's locked in there for good, right?
Yeah.
Now, when it comes to IPFS, say that Brian creates his user profile and he puts his picture, uploads his photo, and that's using the Dash drive, right? So can you update and rewrite the data? Because IPFS is a shared file distributed system, right? So you can update the stuff uploading. So we need to look at it different from storing stuff on the blockchain, correct?
Actually, IPFS is immutable as well. So it's content address system, where it's like key value storage, where a key is a hash of the value, and you cannot change the value for this key. So this feature of mutable data, what you can change it, is based on drive design. Each piece of data, as I said before, is just like a change of state.
So it's like different versions. So what would happen if Brian wanted to change his profile picture?
So he need to create the next document like this. With the same ID, but with revision 2 and new changes, and send state transition with this document, and replace this document to the IPFS, like new version of this document to IPFS, and state transition to the chain. And Drive has a layer on top of IPFS. We call it state view, where we are storing actual data, like last version of documents. So, and when you fetch data back from a client, you are fetching it not from IPFS. You are fetching from this state view. This state view provides like some querying interface, so you can filter data by fields, made some calculations and so on. And we are using MongoDB for that. And so it's like Drive provides all feature what provides MongoDB. So it's full featured document array database on chain.
So people need to treat any data that they put on there is that it's going to be on there forever. So if Brian accidentally uploads a naked picture to his profile, it's like, oh, I've got to change that quick. That naked picture is going to be on there forever. Correct?
Yeah, that's true.
I'm glad you said that, because that brings me to my next question. Not that Brian's going to have a naked picture on there, people. No, that's not what I'm alluding to.
Yes. He specifically used Brian as an example because he wanted to head things off at the pass. So
yeah, no, this question is really, really important, and I still don't know if you've got a solution for it. And it's a very, very serious question. So well, I know the Dashcore team's already been thinking about this for a long time, so I'm hoping you've got an answer for it. So say, for example, if I created a social network DAP, right, similar to 4chan or Twitter, how do we prevent illegal content being used on Dash Drive, whether it's, well, anything illegal? I'm sure you can imagine if you're watching and listening to this. Like, how can we prevent people uploading illegal content to Dash Drive? Like, are there any measures to doing that?
We can't prevent it, but we can post-moderate it. And they have some ideas about like maintain Masternode forums, which will decide which content and vote for the like illegal content, and this content will be removed eventually. Fingerprint of this content will always stay in chain, but we can remove it from IPFS, right? This state transition. And actually, it's not really true that I said that a naked picture will be forever, because they have some ideas for the credit system. I mean, their charges for layer 2 data, which will go to Masternode. We are thinking about you will pay for for storing data for some period of time. So kind of you store some data and you say, okay, I want to store this data for 1 year, and depending on that, we will calculate fee. So if you're going to store for 1 second and 1 year, it will be much different cost for this transaction.
So someone could store something there eternally. It just would cost a whole lot. It's like someone who have to give up their whole Masternode in order to make sure that Mark's shirtless pictures with a couple of Ripple logos right here are there forever.
Talk about how we would remove stuff. How would that work? You talking about Masternode quorums? Would the Masternodes vote on it, or explain that?
Yeah, exactly. So each document has ID. This ID is completely unique for the for global state, for the network. So you can identify this illegal content by this ID, and then masternodes could vote that this ID is this document is this ID is illegal, and all other masternodes will just ignore this data and remove it from the drive.
Yeah, I could see that, there could be a lot of the spam or whatever. So there would have to be somebody that may curate a whole list and then just present that to the masternodes, be like, here, this is kind of a trusted person, so this is all bad stuff. And then we would vote on a block of stuff, something like that.
It's going to be a big moderation role, I can imagine. Yeah, you're right, because I'm already thinking trolls, but there are malicious, nefarious people out there that will look to utilize platforms that offer solutions like this to do things like that. So you mentioned that, Ivan, like moderators and stuff as well. So Core have already been thinking about this, so they've got some kind of strategy about how to combat this, because this is a serious, potentially legal issue, right? So we've got to tread carefully here.
Actually, we made some investigation. It's not really a big issue right now. I mean, and we had some intermediate solution, like provide some blacklist for Masternode. They can just specify these IDs. But we decided to not go with this solution for now and implement like Masternode-based moderation, where Masternodes will decide which content is wrong. And I think we need some API just to allow users to like to signal about like illegal content.
There's one thing I don't understand though. Can you help me understand this? So you're saying a lot of this depends on MongoDB, which is a database for those watching. So I know the Masternode network's decentralized, but all these Mongo databases, how they, are they centralized? Like how are you distributing all these databases? Are you spreading them out, or is it like a centralized few servers? How do these MongoDB databases come into play?
Okay. So data, I mean, right now, Masternodes store the whole data set. So we don't need to like to replicate this data. And I mean, they're just like each Masternode and each MongoDB instance contain the whole index, the whole state for this moment. And sharding of this data is our next goal after MVP.
So it's like okay. That makes more sense. So the masternodes once again are playing a very pivotal role in this. Okay, so this is going to be interesting for masternodes moving forward then, because we've already kind of addressed earlier on that there may be instances where they're going to have to upgrade their hardware requirements, whether it's storage, but maybe even a processor as well for the servers that they're using for the hosting solutions.
Actually, we made some calculations, and for now, it's like not too much data they need to store. So I think we're okay for like 1-2 years.
Okay.
What are the fees structure like? You said that there's a fee involved. I mean, are they just cents, or could it be more? Or?
I think it's less than cents. It's like
okay.
it shouldn't be a lot. It depends on your data size.
Right.
I mean, the data what you're going to store, and I think it will depend. We didn't make this decision yet. I mean, but I think it will depends on time what you're going to store this data, because it's obviously right. It's like this model, like Dropbox or something. If you store data, you need to pay for that, right? And you can't put data forever. And
so there's got to be limitations, Ivan. Come on, it's not all rainbows and unicorns. So what are the limitations? So obviously, MVP when it first launches, is it scalable? Is there going to be limitations when it first launches in terms of file size restrictions? Like, what are the obstacles that we need to overcome? There must be some kind of cons to using IPFS and Dash Drive initially. Like, there has to be some form of limitations.
Limitations are, I think we will limit state transition size. I mean, the number of like data what you want to store in one state transition, one transaction. About functionality limitations. Here is unicorn scams. I don't have any limitations. I mean, it will work as previously designed, and yeah, you can
because it's based on the node and the network infrastructure supporting the IPFS. So if Joel said to me like, Mark, we're gonna make a DAP. We need to replicate DTube and have like a video YouTube platform service like YouTube where people can upload videos using IPFS. I don't think the network infrastructure would be able to support that from the get-go.
Yeah, I mean, probably the one limitation is that the validation rules, what you can define in data contracts, they are limited by JSON schema, what we are using to define documents, where you can say, okay, name should be like 5 chars length, and for example, I don't know, like the age should be a number, and so on. So you can define strictly the format of data what you store. And sometimes you need some custom rules on on a consensus level. For example, we are bookstore and they have categories and they have books. Okay, so and we can create books only for specific category. So when we store book, we need to validate that they have this category, and this category, for example, is enabled. So we need these checks, and we cannot make these checks on the client side, right? Because we can just not do that. So we need these checks on the chain, on the network, right? So and the consensus level. So such custom logic will not be able for implementation for beginning for MVP, and this will come with data triggers, what I said before, which we are going to do after MVP. So now now is limitations probably more about like use cases. So if you have some edge case logic, it will be kind of complicated to implement on a protocol level.
Are there any future plans to like open it up to like larger data storage, like pictures and stuff? I mean, this is in the future.
Yeah, that's a good point. In our plans, we're gonna allow to store files as well, because now it's like data-oriented thing, right? So you store JSON documents, and later we're going to store files. It will be like decentralized CDN. So and actually, that's a really cool idea, because you can have like completely decentralized application. So you can store your application in case of web, for example, in a drive. I mean,
whoa. So you
you-
telling me I could have like a Google Dash drive associated with my user account or my DashPay username, and I could have my own essential Dash drive where I can upload files and content to keep. I don't know. Is that a safe solution? I guess it's just as safe as using Google Drive or any other online storage solution, right? Is there any?
Yeah, Google Drive is centralized.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you want to, if you need decentralized solution, you will use Drive for that. And actually, this lead us to complete stack for decentralized application development, because you can store your application in the network. You can store your data in the network, and we are working now on a new concept. We call it Dash Platform Name Service. It's a new thing. It's like decentralized DNS for the names. So it in our plans to provide like complete stack for applications, and also user profiles. Why, like how to say correct, like identity, your profile, which you can use for authorization among all Dash platform applications and even other applications as well. It's like single sign-on and like Facebook authorization, something like that.
Wow, Matt. Joel, could you imagine? Just think about it as an onboarding tool. We're always talking about, well, how we're going to come up with ideas to get people to, when Evolution comes out, to create DashPay usernames. But could you imagine using it as an onboarding tool to say, like, create a DashPay username and you get 50 gigabytes of free storage with each account? Like, can you imagine that? Because we've seen OneDrive do that, and other storage solutions use that. Wouldn't that be a great way to get people to onboard people to Dash? Like,
yeah, I'm done with Dropbox.
Yeah, I mean, like, I can see the cogs turning. I know you've got some ideas in there.
Yes, I mean, you can do hashtag Dropbox and have people just migrate over. Data storage is always, it's always an important thing. Well, here's the thing is, right now, I'm involved with several collaborations with some teams around the world on things like, say, merchant materials, flyers, all this kind of like stuff. And it's like, well, where are we going to all share it? Like anyone who has an idea, anyone who has some valuable material, like a presentation, something to print out, whatever, put all your documents in this one space. And we've been thinking, like, what's the best space? Oh, well, I guess Google Drive. Okay, that's kind of the best we got so far. But then there's certain limitations. They're like, well, we'll figure it out when we get to those limitations of like the free Google Drive. And wouldn't it be great to put this all in Dash itself? Be it strategizing about how to help Dash best, and then have a Dash-based storage system where all you have to do is just sort of pay more into it. And that's the other thing that's interesting from just the proposal owner perspective and Dash, which is very few people's perspective, but I guess it's some of ours, so why not? People get paid in Dash and then have to convert it somehow to pay bills to deliver on their promise to the Dash network. And I've always, whenever I've had projects, I've always tried to have ones where I could spend everything as directly in Dash as possible. Now, imagine if instead of having to pay for all this extra, like all these extra solutions or whatever to store data, whatever data you need, what if you just use that all in Dash and just kind of roll the whole thing over? That would be very, very interesting.
I'm getting excited about this. So, okay, let's say I'm a third-party developer. I don't know anything about Dash. Evolution comes out. Hopefully, there's going to be some guidelines and resources. And I'm a developer. How do you inspire me? I want to build a DAP on the Dash, on Dash Evolution, the Dash platform. So, what can IPFS do for me as a DAP developer? Like, what advantages do I get from that? Like, get me excited. So, like, I'm a developer. I'm really cool thing. I've worked on other platforms and stuff. It's like, oh, this Dash thing looks interesting. Oh, and I can use IPFS. They've got like this Dash drive thing. Why? What would incentivize me to want to do something on Dash and use the Dash drive as opposed to other solutions?
Our benefits is that we provide some interface API which allow you to store your data on a chain, but in a way how you are storing data in normal, like common databases. So it's much easier, and you don't need to know Solidity or something like that. This will provide fancy and really useful SDKs where you can just say, okay, this is JSON document, store it, that's all, and attach it back. So it's the benefit. It's really useful and simple interface of using this system. So you don't need to know about IPFS and all internal stuff. You just using like simple API for that. That's the point. Just allow the developer who is not really experienced in the blockchain to use it, to use the technology. And this new approach, I think it's like new point of view, data contracts, new way of writing consensus logic. It's much simpler than smart contracts, I think.
This is going to be a challenge for Dash, I think. It's more of a marketing and an education challenge, because in terms of developers utilizing Dash Evolution, so much is dependent on educating people about the DAP. We keep saying DAP, but for those that don't know what we're talking about, DAP stands for Decentralized API.
And what does API stand for people who don't know that?
That's a good question, actually. I don't know off the top of my head. I should know.
API is interface for...
Yeah, so application programming interface. There you go. And so
it's funny because most people who use that term have no clue what the acronym means, and it's not even that complicated of an acronym.
No,
it's just a funny thing.
So for clarity, a DAP is a decentralized application programming interface that allows third tier users to access the network securely in terms of Dash Evolution. And I think that's going to be the make or break thing within Dash, because we need to attract developers to build on it, because we're dependent on people to build on Dash as a success. Right now, we're dependent on Cord to get us across the finish line to showcase and present this solution to the world, but we need third-party developers to come on and build on it. That's why it has limitless potential. And it's hard to say what evolution is going to be, because people are going to build on it. So it has unlimited possibilities. It's dependent. It's like launching. Well, it's like when the iPhone first came out and had an app store. Like, everyone's like, well, it's a phone. You can call people, you can text people. But now you've got an app store, and it creates this whole new level, this whole new paradigm of things you can build on it. So, like, if you can think of it, you can build it, you can do it on Dash. And Dash DAP just allows you to plug in, but you can pull and you can, imagine the user base and the contact list. So you're building a solution, and the advantage of Dash is you can plug in, and you've got all those Dash Pay usernames on there straight away, and you could overcome that obstacle. And also it helps you in terms of infrastructure as well. Like if you wanted to create an application on your own, you're going to have to get multiple servers, multiple instances, plan all this kind of infrastructure out. And by utilizing Dash and building a Dash DAP, it's more streamlined. It's probably going to have a much more active community, and it should make things so much more simple and be more cost effective. Am I missing anything out?
Yeah, and actually there is only one solution in the industry for this moment. I mean, which provide like database way to store your data. So
I was thinking of an application for that, because as always, there's a bunch of fascinating things being done right now on cryptocurrency networks, including Dash. And I'm a big fan of ugly hacks because not permanently necessarily, but I'm a very big fan of because there's ingenuity to limitation. Right? If you limit yourself in a very specific way, like this is all I can do. So for example, for many years, I practiced Taekwondo, which is heavily kicking oriented. You cannot punch to the head, only to the body. You can kick to the body and the head. And that's very limited. You can't kick to the legs, punch to the head, elbow, grab them, any of that stuff in competition. But they have all these crazy fancy spinning kicks and a bunch of weird moves like that because you're just limited to this amount of things. You have to be very ingenious within that very limited set of moves. And same thing with like boxing, you can only do a few, but then you see people doing some very crazy things. There's been a lot of innovations on just like the basic Bitcoin-like structure, and Dash has a very big Bitcoin-like structure. One of those I'm a big fan of is the sequencing of the Jamaican lion cannabis genome. And so I actually was talking with Dr. Kevin McKiernan, who did that, and he was showing me exactly like where the transaction was. And he did a Dash transaction, and he basically hashed the location of the actual storage of the genome, which has been stored on a whole bunch of different servers, but the servers themselves are not immutable and decentralized. And I'm just thinking that's that last bit, is they managed to sequence a cannabis genome because some company was trying to patent it. And we know how patents don't go well in the cryptocurrency world sometimes. But so they were trying to patent it and basically keep people from growing it who were already growing it, pretend they invented it when they didn't. And so basically they beat them to the punch by sequencing it ahead of time. Now, unfortunately, it's like half decentralized. It's like half decentralized and immutable. The blockchain part is, the actual storage, not really. But what if there was an immutable, perhaps IPFS based drive? It was part of this whole thing. You could just sequence it on. When is the Jamaican line going to be sequenced on the Dash blockchain, stored on Dash Drive itself? That's one thing that I can't wait for.
Maybe tomorrow, right? Tomorrow will be a good day to do it, right, Brian? What's tomorrow?
Yeah, it's 420. Yeah,
it's 420.
Oh,
yeah.
Honestly, I forgot.
Yeah. So hopefully we can have loads of all 36 tweets tomorrow about 420, because I'm hoping it's going to be a big year for Dash in terms of cannabis as well. And and also, man, it'd be so amazing. Right, Ivan, let's put you on the spot. Don't panic. It's good. I'm not going to shout at you. Don't worry. I'll wait until after the podcast. Let me give you a problem. Right, because you're a developer, you're good at thinking solutions. So let me give you a problem, and then you can tell me how you can help me and how I can utilize your solution. How does that sound?
Yeah,
good.
Sounds great.
Right. So Dashforce runs a online merchant directory called Discover Dash, and that is a user-submitted online directory for merchants. So for e-commerce merchants and brick-and-mortar physical stores, they can upload, whether they've got an ATM or a merchant, blah, 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 and they just fill in their location, whether on Google Maps, and fill in their data and social media, all that stuff. How would I utilize the Dash Drive and Dash Evolution to get the best of both worlds? Because that would be the ultimate. We're talking about the evolution here, or potentially of Discover Dash. How can I use Dash Drive to take it to the next level? Be the solution. Come on, help me here.
So in this case, you can store all your data in Drive. I mean, to define your data contracts and with all your data entities like merchants, all this data, and store it in Drive. And I'm not sure that this exact case represents the benefits of the Drive, because I mean, if you just want to have decentralized storage for your data, decentralized website, yeah, in this case, right. But I think it should be.
It's difficult, isn't it? Because so from the map side, I'm using that API for Google Maps. So unless there's a open source map version on Dash, could you imagine that? That would be amazing. I know there's open maps and other solutions, but that would be amazing. So I would still need to depend on that. But in terms of users creating their accounts, maybe instead of signing in their username, email address, or logging in with their Facebook, Twitter account, or Google for authentication, they could create a DashPay username to use the service. And then the merchant itself could create their own DashPay username. And then through the online store, perhaps then where it is a Dash merchant directory, it's obviously for the Dash community. So maybe you could plug in and pull usernames. So not just to leave DashPay username reviews and ratings, but it's all directly on there. And then obviously you could create a mobile application DAP. And yeah, there's a lots of things that you could do. But
so here's something I'm thinking of. You mentioned Facebook, and so I kind of, in terms of I've traveled a whole lot, especially in my younger years, and for a long time, I would literally buy a disposable camera to take pictures where I went and get that developed and just keep physical photos. And then after a while, we had digital photos. So I had a digital camera. I just take photos and I'd put them on my computer, put them in a drive, and it just, but then eventually, Facebook came out, and I remember when Facebook was a new thing. I think I was on since 2006 or something like that, or something a very long time ago. Of course, not since the very beginning, but close enough. And I remember since then, I don't really upload pictures anymore. I don't really store them. All my, it's kind of like my whole life is on Facebook. It's just one central place to where if I'm trying to say, oh yeah, let me look at that picture, I scroll through, and I even remember my life through things like Facebook. Because I just scroll down, oh yeah, I remember that. It's but then there have been some people, in fact, I think a famous crypto YouTuber might have had this happen to him, where he just lost his Facebook and all his life got erased. They just banned him and everything got erased. So there's a reason why people do that. I mean, part of it's convenience, and part of it's just a central store of everything. People aren't just going to be digging up through image files on their storage drive. I mean, I have a few, but whatever. They're not going to be doing that. And they want how about storing a decentralized Dash-based Facebook type thing where everyone's social media life, literally their chronicle of their life. It's like their journal, but it's on a decentralized storage platform. You can't burn their journal or whatever. You can be on that, or at the very least, being a lot more pessimistic here, but still, what if there was an Dash DAP that performed an automatic social media backup to where even if you're just still using the old terrible centralized social media things, the Dash DAP integrates with that, interfaces with that, and just sort of copies all your images and your text posts and everything, just copies it onto Dash Drive, so that if all these companies ban you, you still have everything.
Sounds pretty interesting, actually. As I know, there is some protocol for social media to exchange data, so you can do that easily, I think.
Are you aware of many people creating DApps right now? So we know the DashPay is going to be the first DApp. We also know Andy Freer said when he was stepping back that he's got some ideas that he wants to work on in the back. Do you know, because I noticed a little glint in your eye when Joel said social networks. Do you know anyone that's working on a social network as a DApp for Dash? Or has there been conversations? Because I saw your head twitch when Joel said that. I saw your poker face. Come on. Spill the beans. Do you know anything? Come on.
Honestly, I didn't hear about that.
No. So no
Yeah.
one's mentioned to you about like utilizing a social media or a social network for a Dash DApp.
I
Go on.
believe that every developer is doing something by his own in this.
Yeah.
But
Right.
Yeah,
I'm gonna get an angry phone call from Ryan.
But-
Stop pressuring him.
if I can, so if you can reserve like a username, if I could reserve a DAP name, I'm gonna need a patent or trademark Duff Book
Yeah,
for
man.
Dash. The first Dash social network Duff Book, or Evanstagram.
Yeah, this all sounds kind of like what Evan was alluding to that he's working on, kind of like a decentralized internet thing. Or nobody really knows exactly what it was, but it sounds like this is all kind of coming together and all kind of moving towards that direction.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
world as it will be, or as it could be, including in the multiverse, is all in Evan's head. Now, whether or not it will ever make it into the physical realm on this timeline, who knows? But it starts in Evan's head even before anyone actually puts finger to keyboard and starts writing code. It's all in Evan's head first,
We really need
including plans for a killer neon sign.
I was going to say, like, we really need a DApp marketplace. I was talking about the Apple App Store, but but then I guess if you have a marketplace of DApps, if you have some kind of like screening process, would that be too centralized? Because then someone's got to moderate and say something's good. I mean, of course, you could just have it open as a free for all, and people could rate applicate on DApps on what's good, what's bad. That's obviously the way forward, making it user friendly. So obviously we've got to have the DApps there first, but yeah, if you create it, people will come, right? Wayne's World. So that would be a good stepping stone. I think obviously you need guidelines and everything else. I want to get Joshua back on the podcast at some point. We need to get him back on the next few weeks because Joshua gave a really, really good presentation on Dash Evolution last year. And there's a video. If you go to docs.dash.org, there's free like demo videos, but Joshua takes you, he's got a really good presentation and he talks you through and you can see some screenshots and he explains about Dash DApps and the process. And they actually showcase a demo showing a contact list and showing how that DApp works on the back end. It's really fascinating. So if you are a developer watching that, definitely go check that out. Which brings me to the point in terms of like resources and information. If there are developers listening and watching this, is there any like decent resources that they can go to now to learn more about Dash Drive and DAPI? I know there's like a brief summary, but in terms of like for creators that want to develop something, is that something not here yet, but is that in the process of coming out?
We have some internal documentation which is not published yet, and I think that right now is the best way is just to go and see code, how it works, and pretty soon we'll publish, as I said, the bunch of posts about platform and each components with some description and how to spin up all this stuff on AWS or locally.
How confident? So, like, you've been testing this for a long time because, in terms of background, you had what was called a VMN, which was a virtual Masternode network, so you can test things out, right? And I imagine that's been around for quite a while now because I'm thinking back to even the demo videos because they were utilizing that then to test things out. You remember when obviously Chuck and a few others, Chris, had like those demo apps, and I think that was like the third video out of the demos. But even then, they had some stuff that they could pull from. So you've been testing Dash Drive out, so it's got to be pretty close to its final form now, right? Or is there still lots more work to do? Like, how close are we to the finish line in terms of like Dash Drive?
Interesting question. Actually, you told about VMN, and we had it in some point of time, but I worked the last half of year on a new version of protocol, which we released like 2 months ago, and VMN is obsolete right now, so it doesn't work because we changed a lot in our protocol on layer 2. And about your question about in what point we are now. Yeah. So if you're talking about Drive perspective, we need just like to make so right now Drive is provide only data which is on chain, but before the chain data in the mempool, right? So the one big thing what we need to do is to store and provide data which is not mined yet, which is in mempool. That's probably one big task. But actually, you said I'm Drive developer. It's not really true because our teams, I mean DAPI and Drive, recently merged. So we have now one platform team, and I'm working on DAPI and Drive and all other components as well, and protocol too. So, and if we are talking about platform, we have our development roadmap, but it's not public yet, and we are working on it. It's more detailed than we have roadmap on our website. It's concrete, like epics and what we need to do, and I hope we will publish it like soon.
It's getting close, Ivan. It's getting real close. We've got 0.14 next, and I've got a feeling that's probably just around the corner as well. And then after that, it's version 1.0, baby. I mean, there's always the chance. There is always the off chance. You know, when you have a version come out, there might be, an update revision. But, you know, guys, man, we're so close now. This is exciting times. Come on. You
already can store your data. I mean, it works already. There's some limitation, but it works. That's great.
Yeah, I just hope that we can get like the documentation and stuff out for the developers, because like that's it, you know, with the DAPs and everything else. Because even you know, and I think Core have been really open about this, saying, look, the Dash Pay is the first DAP. Sure, it's a wallet, but there's nothing stopping a third-party person coming on building their own version of their wallet. You know, and that's what I love about Core. It's like they believe in the free market. We don't have leaders and personalities. We're a community-led project. So if someone else creates their own wallet as a DAP, and that works great, fantastic. But it's an open free-for-all for everyone. We want people to build on it, right? And the best solution wins out. Competition inspires innovation, and that's why I love Dash. Where other projects, it's kind of like, here you go, you get this, that's it, like it or lump it. Or you can only code in this one language, which actually
I'm sorry.
That's another really good point, because you mentioned Ethereum earlier, and you're kind of stuck if you want to develop something like that. But with Dash, you actually have the ability to create in different coding languages. Now, I think the library that's kind of been made open, isn't it? It's been mainly based on JavaScript, from if my understanding is correct. But is there going to be any change on that moving forward?
Yeah, we're going to provide SDK for every platform, every popular platform and languages.
So if I'm a developer and I've got experience building applications, whether it's web-based, app-based, whatever, in terms of SDK, you've got no excuses. Wherever cryptocurrency blockchain projects, you're tunneled into either using their own custom solution or something else. With Dash, you can do anything. I don't want to say it's plug and play, but it's as simple as you're going to get. And with the DAPI and everything else, you can just plug in and make stuff work. Whereas suppose if you're going to start from scratch, you've got to build up all your own infrastructure, everything else. That's going to cost you a lot of paper, you know, a lot of wedge, a lot of moolah, a lot of cheese, a lot of green, or a lot of crypto. So Dash really
a lot of duffs.
Yeah, Dash is really going to step things forward. And the reason why I alluded to earlier, why I'd love to get Joshua back on, because in one of those demos, he mentioned the DAP generator. And I know he's watching this, and he's probably thinking the same thing, but I was so fascinated by it, because that is that user experience that we want, where you can come as a developer, and as time progresses, we can have different schemas, and it speeds up that process, because then you've got that skeleton framework, and it speeds things up. Like, that's tools that developers and stuff want to utilize, because you can get things done quick. You know, the painless time things of like setting up servers, instructions, all that sort of that's really frustrating. If we make things easy, people will want to use it. And I think Dash is ticking all those boxes. We just got to get that message out there and get that megaphone, tell people what's going on, and find ways to communicate with the developer community and bring them in, and then we can knock it out the park.
There's a proposal
that's-
right now that I think's aiming to do that. I haven't looked over it too much, but yeah, that's to bring developers in.
Well, that's the thing. As Mark said, if we make things easy, people will want to use it. I mean, that's the Dash ethos right there. Now, I got a couple of questions, starting with the fun one, and then some slightly less fun ones, but still very relevant. The fun first, can you confirm or deny rumors that at the next Dash conference, whenever that may be, that Bob Carroll will come on stage, start jumping up and down, screaming, "Developers, developers, developers," just to get everyone to start developing on Dash? You don't have to answer that one. But the other ones being, first off, we do have a question from Jan in the live chat. Any idea how GDPR will apply to data stored on the Dash drive? Now, GDPR, for those who live in a free country or area, is something that basically European data compliance, that they police the stuff you store. Like, for example, if you got any memes as spicy as the kind that Mark Mason creates, you might be in a lot of legal trouble. So
yeah. I wouldn't worry about it. I don't think the European Union is going to be around much longer. Don't worry about it. That's the technique. I mean, look, yeah, like they're not going to ban memes. Like, don't worry about. Look at other open source things that are being stored and shared everywhere. I think that's really being put forward by bureaucrats that don't understand the technology. There are certain the only, in terms of that law, the only time where I see it where it has a positive application is users requiring information on their site, whether they want stuff taken down or whatnot. That's understandable. But I think in terms of most terms of service and privacy policy on networks that you create accounts on, that's normally covered for anyway. You don't need some totalitarian government to cover on that stuff. Even on Google search engine, you can put in requests to have certain things retracted, right? So I don't foresee that being an issue right now. It's not preventing any other services from functioning, so I don't see that being a legal issue. In fact, it's a reason to stand up and flip the finger, if anything.
Yeah. Now, another point, which is probably, it's a little bit more newbie, but it's fine. How about implementing KYC type stuff into certain wallets? Like, obviously, because this is Dash, this is, completely decentralized and voluntary and anonymous, if so chosen. But say someone says, "Oh, we don't want to use this because we need to do all our KYC for all our transactions in our country. We can't use Dash for that." And someone decided to make, instead of like the Dash paywall, just call it government spook pay. And then, so in government spook pay, you have to put in your ID, and then it records all your stuff, and then it records all your transactions, and records all like the profit and loss or whatever for tax purposes, which is more of a US thing than anything. And then, how easy is it to make like an alternative Dash Pay wallet DApp that does that? And if so, what do you think of the implications of starting to store government documents and things like that, KYC information, on Dash Drive? And finally, do you think a world may exist where governments start to use Dash Drive to run their KYC databases?
The role of the future.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's no implications with that. Why not?
Yeah.
Excellent. Do you have any ideas of DApps that you want to build yourself? You must come on. You've got some ideas. You're seeing all this cool tech. You've got a head start before anyone else. You must have some ideas. You must be like, I can't wait until this launches because I want to build X, Y, Z.
Honestly, I'm too busy right now with Dash platform architecture, so I didn't think about my own projects on that. But as I know, someone is working on that, and Andy, then he decided to take a rest. His idea was to create kind of company or group to help people to develop and help Dash platform startups. I mean, application startups, help people.
Oh, so not essentially like a marketplace, but like a kind of hub to go to say like, okay, here's how you go it, but also because he's got that insight, because he is the grand architect. You know, he helped pave the way, Andy. So like, if you're watching, you know, top man. But at the same time, yeah, I think that's a great way to offer yourselves in like a consultancy. So say if, you know, there's a lot of big companies out there and they may see this infrastructure saying like, hey, Dash is really onto a good thing right here, and there's going to be a lot of people flocking to this and we want the heads up. So in terms of consultancy, who better to speak to than Andy, saying like, here you go, here's this resource, here's this infrastructure, here's some guidelines, but if you want to speed things up or you want to consult to really get to the next level, let's talk and let's make things happen. Let's push things forward. That's really exciting. You'll have to keep us posted on that. As soon as you hear any inkling of a website or a service or a solution, or Andy, if you're watching, get in contact, because that's exactly what I want to hear. It's not just outreach, going to developer conferences, although I would love to see a Dash like DevCon. I know Ethereum does one. It's very popular. I know Ryan in the past has spoke about doing you know, Dash hackathons. I'm guessing we'll probably have a Dash conference first, right? You know, but then in the future, I think we've got a treasury. Let's utilize it. Joel in the past is a big fan of saying like, you know, bounties are a great way of getting things done. If the community wants things, or as we identify as problems or solutions, saying like, wouldn't it be cool if we had this solution A, B, C, D? Do a hackathon, get the developers there, and put a prize of bounty saying like, these are DApps that we want for our community, right? And we want you guys to build it. If you can build this, these are prizes that you can get. Incentivize them to do that. What other cryptocurrency project can do that? You know, we got the first mover advantage of having
Ripple?
a DAO, a treasury. No, well, yeah, but the centralized money, decentralized money, right? So yeah, like there's so much stuff that we can do, and I'm still thinking about that storage hard drive space. I don't know how feasible it is because there's a lot of work around, but you know, we've been talking about how we can onboard users with the Dash Pay usernames. You know, there's the debate about, you know, how we're going to prevent people from, you know, taking up loads of names and all that sort of stuff. But on the flip side, actually, how are we going to bring people in? That's the most important question. You know, whether it's, oh, I'm going to share this with my friends and family and hope bring them in. But given that extra added value, makes sense. Like if you can create like a Dash drive, maybe not for MVP, but in the future, and say like, hey, if you create an account, you get like a free 20 gigabyte hard space drive where you can store files, images, whatever, right? That's a great selling point. Now, I don't know how feasible that is, but that's got to be a conversation worth having. So I'm hoping that the higher ups and leadership in Dash Core Group are watching this, will take note and get your pens out, because I think that's a really angle that should be explored. So yeah, am I saying too much, Ivan? Am I going to get you in trouble?
No worries.
Well, I was just going to say, speaking of getting him in trouble, can you expand more on like the DNS you were talking about as part of the Dash in the future? Is that, are we talking about decentralized internet, or what exactly is that?
Yeah, that's a new idea, new proposal what I made recently, and this is how we can implement usernames. So right now we are storing username with identities on chain, and this proposal bring usernames to the layer 2. So storing names in a drive, and we can leverage our platform and writing writing the data contract, so like decentralized application, DNS, like DPNS, Dash Platform Name Service, where you can register name and resolve some information by this name. So we can store username there, application names in domain-like syntax, so we can have some subdomains for your applications, for example. And you can use this like name service for any needs, for your third-party needs, I mean third-party developer needs.
Hang on a second.
Resolve any information, not just like identity, Dash identity, but I don't know, other services, drive address. For example, if you decided to store some data in Drive, you can assign name and fetch this data by name. And also in the future, we can make DNS gateway and resolve these names through the browser. I mean,
have you thought about doing this?
Interesting.
This was an idea. In fact, that we was just talking about in the after party last Friday. See, people, what you're missing out. Better get in there. So DNS, for those that don't know, domain name server. Now, CoinGun, aka Jeff Smith, former Dashcore Group team member, I think we had this conversation like 2 years ago, and he spoke about the idea of buying the domain extension for like dash, right? Which means then I think, and you can apply to ICANN to purchase that extension. I think it was like $300,000 from memory. It's probably changed now because it's been a few years. And by buying that domain extension, you can create IP addresses, IP version 4, IP version 6. Now, IP version 6, you know, in terms of addresses you can create is a phenomenal number. You know, you're not limited like IP version 4 is. It exponentially increases. So there's a lot of potential there. Have you actually thought about doing that? Because that might be a really tactful way of getting things done in the future, and it might be worth utilizing the treasury to get that anyway, right? Have you thought about this?
Yeah, we were thinking about this, but now is this domain much expensive than before?
Oh, has it gone up in value? Oh, it's more expensive to do now,
It's
right?
more
Okay.
like $1 million.
I mean, to
Maybe.
register TLD, like top level domain name, is pretty expensive for now.
Oh, right. But in terms of as a solution, though, I think there's so much thing, because in the past, was it there was a domain coin in the past, wasn't there? I don't know if it was peer coin or something like that, or name coin.
Coin, yeah.
Yeah, and I know they ran into some kind of issues, but that was kind of like on a naming issue. I'm just talking about you could just thinking about, because what people don't always realize with DNS, if you go to a web browser and you're typing in a domain address, that actually translates into an IP address. So by having our own domain extension, we could have so many IP version 6 addresses for your fridge, for your toaster, for everything, and have it relate to Dash. Internet of Things, Internet of Dash, people. Like, there's a lot of things, that cool stuff that we could do. Now I'm even more excited.
Dash of things.
Actually, our idea was like to resolve not like IP addresses, but just imagine situation. You can you write your decentralized application. You upload your assets like HTML, CSS files to Drive. You store your data in Drive, and you register domain name for your application in DPNS, and this name will be resolved in the browser through DNS gateway. So we can resolve by this name application identity in the Dash network. That's amazing. That's complete stack for development. That's what we are trying to achieve eventually.
So like Brian's got this theory. Evan gave an update on Dash Labs recently. In fact, I'm hoping we're going to have a Dash Labs update soon on the podcast by one of the Dash Lab employees. Joel's hopefully going to make that happen. And we're going to find out stuff that's going on. But Evan gave this update, and it was kind of like, with Evan, he's such a visionary. You kind of have to take what he says, but like he's got a solid track record, and he's got some good ideas. And although we're talking about,
I heard
like,
he came up with something that was later called Dash, and I'm a pretty big fan of his ideas.
He's got great ideas, but you know, we need people to like hold him down and build him and make them happen. Developers. So what I'm getting to at here is Brian's always talking to me about this internet, like version 3.0 essentially, right? And saying like blockchain could be used in this way. So are you telling me that like Dash could create its own kind of internet? Like we could have our own browser system? I mean, I think this might be what Evan, I mean, because Brian's convinced, and like I've got to tell you, he's convinced me. Like, I'm a bit of a believer, and now I'm understanding the infrastructure. I'm seeing the vision. It's all becoming clear. Once I was blind, now I can see. And I can see now that the problems that Joel addressed before, where people are being deplatformed by social media centralized networks, now is kind of like, well, we don't have to play their game. It's not, you don't just have to create a DAP using our service. We could be that service, internet, DAPs, things, everything, the whole shabam, and your bank account. Think about that. Now, like, this is next level stuff. And I know it takes a long time to kind of, for the penny to drop and just really grasp what's going on. I mean, when Brian first started talking about this internet 3.0 and stuff, and I was kind of like, I don't know, man, like, that's pie in the sky stuff. But now I'm seeing the infrastructure, it's like the yellow brick road. It's kind of like, yeah, I'm liking this. And it makes sense in the political landscape of things that are going on. It's perfect timing. Let's make this happen, people. Let's do it.
Yeah.
Ivan,
Absolutely.
can we do this? Can we do this?
Yeah, it actually literally we are building decentralized internet. That free, yeah.
Yeah. So you're openly discussing this. You're fully aware. I know it hasn't really gone out there because here's the thing. Like with Dash, we're so forward thinking. We're at the front line. We're always innovating and we're pioneering. And we can talk about things that are potential and in the future roadmap lineup. But I can see why Core don't want to say too much, right? Because we'll start building a solution to one of those problems in the roadmap, and then that will open new doors, or we'll have to go back and rewrite something else to unlock new doors moving forward. So it's not as straightforward to say, yeah, it's going to get done this day, X, Y, Z. Things change, right? I'm sure people that make plans, whether you've been traveling or whatever, like things never change. Plans always change. So there's a lot here. And I know the focus right now is, look, let's just get past the finish line. Let's get Evo out. Let's get the MVP out, usernames. But boy, there is so much we can do here. This is untapped raw potential. This is unlimited power.
Yes. Let me wrap it all up before we go in a kind of context, right? There's nothing that special that Bitcoin or Dash ever did. Just sending, receiving digital tokens. I mean, people already did that with like swiping cards, or you sending bank transfer. They already updated a ledger here and there. The most impressive part was to be able to do so in a completely decentralized way. And so people have been like, oh, this is just these dApps, like crypto kitties. Yeah, anyone can make the little online kitty things. For any company can make a website and just say, here, we'll sell you these kitties. But to have like a decentralized proof of ownership that you transfer, all that kind of stuff, that's what's revolutionary. IPFS, well, who cares? I mean, you can already store stuff online. You can always put like a Dropbox or whatever. But I mean, again, decentralized, like that's like the real benefit. And so here we're thinking about the secret sauce in crypto. Once you get because there's good user experience everywhere, right? PayPal, it just works. The payment apps, you could just kind of do it. It's just the back end that just all the centralized banking servers and all the kind of nonsense they have to deal with. Infrastructure is the key. That's the killer app of crypto, is a decentralized global infrastructure that won't go down because one company's servers kind of had a problem. Like the whole thing stays up. And so you run a financial system off of that, it can free the world. That's kind of what Bitcoin and Dash are trying to do, right? And then once you have that, and Dash has impressed me in that. I mean, of course, I'm in Dash, right? But beyond that, I'm just looking at other coins and things, and they try to develop other bells and whistles. But I just like how Dash is getting smoother and smoother. Like the transactions are going instantly now, and now you got Chainlock's going to defend against 51% attacks. Now it's a second level. You have a bunch of incentivized nodes. So even though it's decentralized, they're always there. They're not just like normal nodes coming in and out. Like when I just use a regular Dash Core wallet, I run it for maybe a couple hours and turn it off when it starts to like make Discord crash or whatever. So, I mean, if you think about it, Dash is getting smoother and smoother all the time. And what if Dash becomes the preeminent infrastructure, decentralized infrastructure that then you start to build the whole new free world on? It's because you already use it for your money. You're already transferring value, which money is the most valuable thing in the world. because everything goes through money. Everything people value, they put that value into the money. And so you start with that, get everyone using that, and then you start building other things. Oh, what about photos? What about social media? What about some communication tools? What about infrastructure? And then you start being like, well, what about my whole like website? What about whole web infrastructure? What about like everything digital? The entirety of the digital world could be built on a decentralized infrastructure, a single robust decentralized network, possibly such as Dash. And who knows if it's going to work that way, but that seems pretty exciting to me if it could.
I think that's what Evan's working on, yeah. And it also not just decentralized, but uncensorable. That's one of the keys
Yes,
as well.
the entire point behind decentralization, of course, is that no one can stop you.
And it's the privacy aspect, Brian. Like, so like even from the DAP, so just think about the internet as well. Privacy is a big issue with Google and other entities tracking you. Think about the internet angle from that. This is like next level stuff. This is like 2001 Space Odyssey, where it's like a star child is born. People don't understand it yet, but it's happening. It's launched. The Dash is launched, and we're in this transitional phase. And something magical is happening. And right now, we're like the apes at the beginning of the movie, looking at the monolith, going around, going like, "Ooh, look at that! Look, there's Dash Evolution. Oh, we're not sure what it is," and we just like touch it, like boom.
Yeah.
Space Odyssey, Star Child is born, Dash Evolution coming soon. It's so big, your mind can't even comprehend it.
Someone's gonna have to have like a like make a meme video out of that. Again, who makes meme videos around here? But just with the monolith being like Dash Evolution with like Evan's head at the top, and then like they all touch it, and then he picks up a username like, you know, @StayDash, starts smashing things with it, and before you know it,
applications, phones, computers, internet
like,
domain addresses, everything.
Fast forward a few thousand years, boom, all of a sudden space.
Wow.
Yeah, I just imagine that everything built on Dash, and after your words, I feel the huge responsibility.
Yeah,
pretty amazing,
mate. You're helping build it, so like you're not only making monetary history. You know, initially when this started out, it was all about taking back control and becoming your own bank. And still, I think some even crypto projects are lacking in that area. And that's just like one aspect. This is like everything. It's going to change. This is a disruptive technology, and the blockchain was a disruptive technology, right? Because it's going to disrupt potentially every industry, right? It's going to infiltrate and change the way people do things. Now, Dash, if it can deliver and it can get the right people to build on top of it, can change and disrupt those technologies now that we've been using to disrupt other technologies, internet, email, messaging, everything else. We haven't even spoken about encrypted messaging, and like I'm sure even IPFS and things can be used for that. There's so much we can do here, and it's so exciting. And sometimes I get frustrated because I feel like we don't have enough resources to make this happen. We've got all these ideas and all this wisdom, and we've got the infrastructure to build it. We just need to get that talent and that energy and the people and the resources to build upon it. And of course, we're in a tricky situation where the market cap is right now, where people just focused on price, speculation. We're focused on utility, but Core can only pull a certain percentage from the treasury each month, so they have their own limitations. But of course, we don't want Dash to be a centralized solution as well. So once we're kind of stuck in that vicious cycle, we're like, let's get past the finish line, let's get Dash out, and then let's open it up to the world to build on it. So there is going to be a waiting aspect, but it's all there to play for. All the dominoes are lined up. We just need to get past that finish line and tap it, like, and then it's going to be
liftoff.
Whole nother level.
I think we have enough resources to release and see how it goes, right? And make right decision in which direction should we go. So I'm not worrying about that.
Yes, absolutely. So as you said, we're not just making the history. We're not just making monetary innovations. We're making history, and history will be recorded on Dash Drive. Let's wrap it up, huh?
Let's wrap it up.
All right.
Go ahead, mate.
As usual, if you like this stuff we're putting out there, make sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe. I do read the comments. I do respond to them. We like the likes. Share it all over the place. And, of course, subscribe. Smash for Dash. boom, smash that Dash button, that subscribe button, so you get the notifications about these every week, even if you try to forget. And this is audio only as well. This comes out in the audio only thing for people who just can't stand to look at Mark anymore. And those people can subscribe on iTunes, Stitcher, all kinds of other platforms. And the posts that Mark puts out on Saturdays has all those links right in there. And of course, as always, we have the after party. Now, I would tell you to go to stay.dashy, but we don't have that kind of stuff going on yet. So you have to go to staydashy.com. And that gets you into the Dash Talk Discord, the happening place. And that's where you start asking around, general channel, wherever. Oh, where's the after party at? I want to talk to the after party. Well, what's the after party? And then someone should plug you in, about 10 of us at a time, all video chatting, doing whatever, cracking out the proper 12 in celebration, whatever it is. It's all in there. You know you want to be in there. You wanted to be in here, but well, we only talk to like really important people. And yeah, so you can get in there.
Man, what an episode that was. Episode 100. I told you last week it would be special, didn't I? Didn't I tell you? And I bet you're glad you showed up for it. And if you're listening to it, thank you as well. And yes, of course, please like, share, and subscribe. And also, if you want to be notified about future podcasts, then you need to hit the notification bell on the YouTube video, and then when the podcast comes up, you'll see the video and you'll get a push notification, which is always good. So you never get to miss us again. So make sure you do that. So press that like button, smash for Dash. Ivan, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. Have you enjoyed it?
Thank you, guys.
It was fun, right? You had a good time?
Yeah, thanks.
Excellent. Where can people contact you? If they got questions, if they got ideas about DAPs. Are you on Discord? How are you on Twitter?
Yeah. You may find me on Discord, and also there is Keybase address in the team page, Dash team page.
Yes,
So,
I found your Twitter as well, but it doesn't look like you've tweeted in 6 years.
yeah, I tried, but it's not my
That's because he's working on a DAP for that. And don't worry about Keybase. Dash Evolution can have its own version of Keybase with encrypted messaging. We just got to build it. But we've got the potential to do it, and that's what matters. So it's Good Friday, people. So happy Easter to those that celebrate, and also to my peeps in the US and Canada where it's legalized. Happy 420 for tomorrow. Have a good time. I want to see some tweets. Tweet Alt36.
Canadash.
420. Canadash. WebJoint as well. They're also a partner of Alt36. Cannabis is going to be a huge use case for Dash this year. So if you do partake in that and you are in one of the legalized states, get some tweets out, get some social media, and get some Dash talk, get some hype going, because big things are happening this year. So happy 420 for tomorrow. Happy Easter to those that celebrate. Have a fantastic weekend for everyone else around the world. Stay positive, stay humble, but most importantly, stay dashy. Have a good weekend, everyone. Cheerio.
Bye for now.